Okay.
If your car is parked in your garage and the garage catches on fire or a tree falls on it, many people think, oh, well, that's going to be covered by my homeowner's insurance.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of Rely on Local, where we're looking to get great information about local good things going on in our communities and giving people a chance to learn about different things going on around them. And today we're super happy to have Carlette Purfuerst with insurance, Fuerst Insurance, I should say, is your company. Mm-hmm. We're very happy to have you here today and talking about insurance and the needs that people have for that. I think a lot of people know of insurance, but they don't know of insurance because it's such a thing that's kind of over here. You know, oh, I have to pay my insurance. I have insurance. I hope I have enough insurance. You know, all the things that are going on with that. But they really don't know probably a lot of the ins and outs that are going on with that and the needs that they should be looking at to have better coverage and hopefully better pricing to go along with that. So we're very happy to have you here, Carlette. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and talk about insurance. I love insurance. I nicknamed myself the insurance geek. So I could talk about insurance and bore people to death, but I do love insurance.
Well, that's wonderful. We really enjoy having you here today. I think a lot of people probably, again, with knowing about insurance, but where do you come into it? How did you get into the insurance world? You know, what is your background with that?
Well, I actually never wanted to be an insurance agent. I always wanted to do something to help people. Oh. And so my dad was a mechanic, so I thought, okay, that's a practical, something people need a mechanic. Well, that didn't work. I wanted to be a nurse, but I didn't like needles. So,
hey, I resemble that remark.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to do something that could be useful and could help people.
There you go.
And so I had been an administrative assistant, executive assistant, you know, for many, many years. Okay. And it just wasn't fulfilling. And I was like, okay, I got to try something else. So I took some time off, and I saw an ad for an insurance assistant. I thought, this could be interesting. Okay. So I had to get licenses, and I started part-time and quickly found out that I have a knack for it. And
Fantastic.
People liked me, and I had a way of explaining things that they could understand. And I thought, this is something I could do. And I've been doing it for over 10 years, and I just love it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I just love it. So.
I think, you know, before we were talking a little bit before the show here that people want to work with people they like. People want to work with programs that they think is good. And it sounds like you're bringing all of that. And it's really cool to hear that.
I try. So I try to make insurance, you know, understandable.
Well, there you go. I think that's the big part we were mentioning a few moments ago. People know of insurance, but they don't. What would you say is one of the most or the biggest misconceptions that people might have when it comes to their insurance policies?
That's a really good question. You know, I think probably the biggest misconception people have is that I think they think the insurance companies are just out to make money.
Sure.
They don't care about them. They just, you know, you just give me your money and we don't care about you. And that's not true. And I, for one, definitely care about my clients. I call them for their birthdays. You know, I really try to do what's best for my clients. But I do hear that all the time. Oh, the insurance company doesn't care about me. Right. You know.
Right.
And that's not true.
Right.
So.
Well, I guess that leads into my next question about being an independent like you are. Mm-hmm. That probably changes the whole dynamic when you're talking about insurance engagement. Because sometimes with the bigger entities of the insurance world, Brand X, maybe there isn't so much of that great connection. You were just mentioning, too, that you're constantly talking with your clients. You're talking with them to better what they have going on or to bring them up to date on new things and all of that. So I love that idea that since you're independent, you can do more of that.
Correct. And So as an independent, I can represent multiple carriers. When you're a captive agent, such as maybe for American Family State Farm,
Sure.
you can only place insurance with that company.
Sure.
And if they don't have something that fits what you need, well, then you can't really
Right,
maybe help
right,
them.
right.
As an independent, I can offer them multiple options and work with multiple carriers.
Right.
So that's one of the things I bring to the table. And my agency is small enough that if a customer calls me, I know them. Oh, yeah, hey, Joe, how are you? You remember me? Yeah, I remember you. So I'm small enough to care, but I'm large enough that I can actually service your needs and give you really great coverage.
There you go. That's
I think
so
that's
needed.
so important.
Becca, yes, take it away.
That's so important right now is just like that personal experience and knowing that someone picks up the phone and actually will talk to you. I mean, that's a big thing for me is like, I mean, it's nice to be able to do some things online and things like that when you're busy, but I love being able to just talk to someone and they know who
Right.
I am. And like, I have a question and it's like, okay, I could look this up, I could do this, but I like being able to know I have someone to talk to and hey, you can answer this question directly to me and explain it. That's invaluable.
I think
right
that's
now.
huge. It's huge. The interconnection that people have is a big part of business when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You, again, want to work within something you're comfortable. If you're comfortable with somebody, it's going to go far. And you can help them, and they can be helped in a more comfortable way. And they're going to remember you and probably talk you up to somebody else.
Yes.
And that's the biggest part when you're talking about the business world. You got to be able to have a situation where people want to talk you up to other people.
Right.
You know, and discuss that. So that's a great question, Becca. By the way, Becca, Lee is joining us today and giving us some insights on some wonderful things in the insurance world questions. So I'm take it away. If you got some other things that you'd like to bring up.
Yeah, just well, we talked a little bit about the difference between being an independent insurance agent and that kind of brought up another question. So you're able to really shop around at different insurance companies for people, so get that best price for them rather than just whatever your company, you know, if you were a, what did you call it?
Captive.
Captive. That's such a dramatic word, too. Like,
Captive.
It really puts a spin on it.
It really says it. Yeah, it really says what it is.
Then you'd
but it
only
doesn't.
have that option of that company and whatever their, you know, rates are. But you're able to shop around and get good rates for people because you're not captive, not held captive. So that's great.
Yes.
You
And
want
that's,
to tell me a little bit about that?
and that's one of the things I do. Like I said, I offer all of my clients an insurance review. So about a month before their policies renew, I look at their upcoming renewal and say, okay, can I do something better for them?
Okay.
Can I, you know, move them from this company to this company and get
Sure.
them a better rate, better coverages? And it's not uncommon for me to contact my clients and leave them a message and say, please call me. I think I can actually get you a lower rate.
Oh.
Because
ding, ding, ding. Boy, they're going to go, oh, where's the phone?
Yeah, because for me, it's all about the customer. And if you have a happy customer, they're going to stay with you and they're going to refer you.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
Right.
Yes.
so that's really important to me is to, and unfortunately, if I can't save you, you know, if I can't lower your premium, if your premium's going up, I'll still call you because that's the one thing I hear people say too. My agent won't call me to give me the bad news. I'm going to call you to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly because I think that's what you should expect from your agent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess that leads into something there because if you know something earlier, you can make adjustments, changes, and needs can go in the direction where you want to go. If you don't know something early and you get it late, you're stuck. Now it's like, okay, now what I can do? You know, my policy's coming up. I'm done. You know, I got to pay this, or I don't have any time to, you know, look around. And so I think that's huge.
Well, and the thing I like to do too is if they're going to get a letter that maybe isn't good news for them,
Sure.
I know about it beforehand.
There you go.
I think it's better to call your client and say, I just want you to know this is coming.
Right.
Instead of them getting this letter in the mail and be, you know, dumbfounded and,
What? Yeah.
you know, and upset. And then they either have to call you or they're thinking, okay, my agent's going to call me, and an agent never does.
Sure.
I think bad news is better to take if you're prepared for it
Right.
than to get, you know,
Right.
hit with it. So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Are you able to just take someone's policy wherever they are and just kind of look it over and see if there's any holes or things that they don't realize? You know, because I know I've had the experience where I've had like really low rates and then realized I really didn't have the coverage that I actually needed, but I was saving a few dollars every month, but in the long run it wasn't good. Do you do that for people that even aren't with you? Just like look at their policy and see if there's something that you can suggest?
I do. So I'm happy to do an insurance review for anyone.
Okay.
And obviously I would like to represent you because I think you're going to get the best customer service from me. However, it really is about the client. So I will look at your policies and I will say, oh, you know, you need to bump up this, you need to bump up that, oh, you don't have enough coverage here. And if I can get you a better rate, great.
Right.
If I can't, then that's okay too. I actually was working with a commercial client, and they happened to be a friend of mine. I was reviewing their policies, and I could not get them a better rate.
Oh.
So I said, however, I noticed that this coverage is much too low.
Right.
Did you realize? And I explained to them why it's too low.
Right.
And they said, wow. I said, so you should call your agent and talk to them about increasing this limit. And they said, well, thank you so much, because no, we wouldn't know about
Right.
that. So, and I have run across people too that I just want the cheapest. I just want the cheapest. And that's kind of painful for me.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm so customer oriented.
Probably never works out well in the end, does it?
Yeah. And, so, and then there have been times when they've said, I just want the cheapest, and then I have a claim, and they're like, oh, I should have taken that for $5.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
Yep.
Well, I'm sure the apples-to-apple situation probably doesn't come across many times when people are looking at the rates, because their coverage is probably drastically different.
Right.
There's no free lunch in this world. If you've got this low rate, there's probably a reason why. And so it's nice that you're looking at that and
Right.
giving them a chance to know, hey, this is important stuff. You should have this coverage.
Sure.
Even though it's costing X amount, it's worth it.
Sure.
Those types of things.
And many times, honestly, I can give them the same or better coverage.
Okay.
I definitely don't like to give them lower coverage,
Right.
so I can get their business.
Right.
I also don't like to give them higher limits just so I can say, oh, well, this is what you should have.
Sure.
So sometimes, depending on what they have, I can do apples to apples
Right.
and still get them a better rate.
Oh, cool.
So that's my goal,
Okay.
is to get them the same, as long as it's good coverage.
Right.
The same coverage or better.
Right. Right.
If necessary, and save them, a few dollars. But if not, I really think the savings is not the most important. Everybody wants to save money.
Right.
But I think the most important thing is that you're getting good coverage.
Yes.
At a
Yes.
fair
In the time
rate.
of need, you want to have good coverage.
Because that's going to actually save you money in this situation
Yes.
in the long run.
Right.
Yes, right.
Well, I hear a lot of people talking about coverages and things like that, and talking, obviously being in the world for quite a while that I am, seeing a lot of different things with insurance. One of the things that I noticed a lot of times is people don't realize that it might not be just the coverage you need for yourself, but things that happen around you
Correct.
in an accident, or the circumstances of hopefully nobody's getting hurt in the accident, those types of things, and that can just go out of control
Spiral
with a
out,
lot, a lot of different things going on from that. So having the proper coverage is so important for that.
Sure.
I can see
sure
that,
it is.
yeah.
And I just want to touch on your comment,
Yes.
about the cheaper rate.
Right.
I always tell people it's great to have a low rate, but what good is a low rate and saving money if you don't have the coverage you need when you need the coverage? Now you're actually, like you said, going to pay more because you save money on your premium, but now you're going to have some out-of-pocket expenses that you maybe didn't think you were going to have.
There you go.
So
I think
yeah.
it's hard for people to think of that, worst case scenario. They don't want to think about it, and it's just like, but then when it happens,
Well, I'm
then
sure they
there it is.
probably figure out it's never going to happen to me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
You know,
Why would
I'm
I
a
do
great
that?
driver.
Yeah.
I never do anything wrong. It's everybody around you. You're not
Yeah,
just
that's
driving on the
okay.
roads by yourself. That would be great. But
Yeah.
it's not working that way so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So I think, that's important things. So, did you have any other comments that you'd like to bring up about different things that you think people should know? I noticed we were mentioning that before we started, that you had some really cool information.
Fun
for
facts?
That. Yeah,
Sure.
some
Fun
fun
insurance
facts.
facts.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a couple things if that's okay. I'd
Sure.
like to talk about what makes me different.
Okay.
Why I love
Absolutely.
what I do. And then to
Absolutely.
talk about some fun facts that people don't know. Because like you said, insurance is very important.
Yes.
And there's an old saying in the industry, you don't know what you don't know.
There you go.
So I
There
like
you
to
go.
try to educate people. So
Sure.
excuse me for reading from my notes here.
Oh,
you're
that's
fine.
perfectly fine.
But the reason why I love what I do, as I said earlier, I never imagined I would be an insurance agent. But I feel that insurance is a very important
Yes.
and very misunderstood service.
Yes.
And so I like to explain to people the insurance. I like to talk to them so they understand it. I use examples and stories and, just help them to feel comfortable. And I have heard people say to me, oh, when I talk to you, I understand insurance. It makes
you go.
sense. Because I try to talk to them in a way that they can understand.
That's so important
Yes.
because otherwise it's like just speaking a foreign language. You're like, I don't know,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
you
yeah,
say,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you feel like you don't know what you're paying for, and if you really need it, and you feel like
Right.
you might be getting like
Right.
bamboozled, and so I think it's really important to know that someone's going to explain it in detail, because it is confusing. It's a lot of legal stuff, and you're like, sure, that sounds good.
Well, you don't deal with it daily. And
Exactly,
Right.
and you hope you don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
And
True.
after I explain something, I will ask the customer. It's called a check-in question, and I will say, do you understand? Does that make sense? Do you have any follow-up questions?
Cool.
Because, again, it's so important to have the coverage. Because insurance is the one thing you can't buy more of when you need it.
Yeah, it's not proactive.
No,
It's
you
not
can go to the store and buy more milk. You can go to the store and buy.
Yeah, I'm going to get that better policy now.
Yep.
And I have had people call and say, "Oh, I didn't have that coverage. Can I add it now?"
Oh,
Sure, but not for the accident
Yeah, I
you just
usually
had.
say I usually say I'll add it when the claim is taken care of or closed, or then we
Right.
can add it.
Right.
So
for next time.
yeah, insurance is the one thing you cannot buy more of when you need it. So, and I also love being there for my clients if they do have a claim or a loss. And I'll just give you a real quick story. I had a customer whose vehicle was stolen.
Oh, no.
And she called later in the afternoon, so the claims department wasn't able to get to her that day. So I was checking in the morning, I was checking my notes, and they had just called and left a message. And I knew she was waiting for her call. So I called her and said, I don't know what happened, but you missed her call. She said, oh, wow, thank you. So then she actually called the adjuster back, and they were able to get everything taken care of.
Good.
And she was so happy that I was
Just
proactive.
a little bit. Just a
Yeah.
little help like
Yeah.
that changes somebody's day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool. That's cool.
And then, let's see, what makes me different is I treat all of my clients, every client is treated like my most important client. I mean, everyone gets the exact same service. So I think that's very important. I do what I say I'm going to do, which I hear that a lot. Wow, I didn't think you were really going to call me.
Didn't expect you to really do that.
Yeah, but I really do what I say I'm going to do every time. If you leave me a message, I will call you back. I will try to make every attempt to answer the phone. If I'm with a client, I like to respect the clients in my office and not interrupt.
Right.
But,
right.
You are going to speak to a live person when you call my office, and I will return your calls. I will return your emails.
Nice.
Yeah. So I talked about the claim. I don't try to tell a client that they should take coverage that they don't need. So for one example, I was working for an insurance company, and they wanted me to sell a gentleman who had an old beater van with liability only and renter's policy and a boarding house and umbrella policy.
Oh.
And
Wow.
I was like, no, because if he does something catastrophic, they're not going to get anything anyway.
Right.
And it doesn't benefit him, it benefits the company. So I don't do that. It's got to be a
Sure.
benefit for the
Sure.
client.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool to hear
those are
that.
what I think make me different.
You're looking out for the person and not just, the
Right.
commission or the company.
That's a
making the money.
really,
So,
really
yes.
good point. Yeah, there's so many times I think a lot of people get stuck in the rut of trying to make the money all the time. And a lot of circumstances that is not beneficial for the client.
Sure.
Especially in the circumstance with maybe that old vehicle. What are you going to get out of that when the vehicle's worth only a little bit?
Right.
So that's cool to hear that. That's really happy. So what tidbits did you have for us today?
Okay, so some really interesting things. I get
Okay.
asked these quite a bit, but this one I get asked a lot, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't.
Okay.
If your car is parked in your garage and the garage catches on fire or a
okay.
tree falls on it, many people think, oh, well, that's going to be covered by my homeowner's insurance
Oh,
because it's in the garage is attached to the home,
sure.
but it's not
Oh.
because the car is not part of the home.
Oh.
Okay, the car. So you have to have full coverage or at least comprehensive for something like that.
Oh, interesting.
On the car to
Okay.
cover the car. So, and that's where a lot of people think, well, that's not right. It was in the house, but it's not part of the house. So, likewise, if you have golf clubs or a computer in your car, if it gets stolen from your car, it's not covered under your car policy because it's not part of the car.
Oh.
It's covered under your homeowner's policy as personal property.
Interesting.
And of course, the deductible applies, and most people have $1,000 deductible.
Sure.
However, that's how it works. Is people
Interesting.
they just think, oh, wherever it is that's the policy that covers it, and that's
Sure.
not the case
What
at all.
if you're parked somewhere and you get something stolen out of your car and you're not at home?
Doesn't matter. It's still personal property.
Personal property. is
okay.
covered
Personal
under home?
property.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
I,
it's still-
that's one I wouldn't have known.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that one bit.
The best example a lot of people don't know is like if you go Christmas shopping,
Okay.
right? You go Christmas shopping, you put
Sure.
all your stuff in. Now it's personal property.
Oh, okay.
It gets stolen. You do have to have receipts. You can't just
Okay.
say, "Oh, I bought."
Yeah. Oh, $10,000
yeah.
computer
Probably
right in
bank
there. Yeah.
statements, too, of stuff, but-
Yeah, so you have to have receipts, but that would be covered under your homeowner's policy.
Yeah.
Now, if they break the glass, Now the glass is covered under the car policy.
Oh, okay.
And the personal property. So
if the tree falls on the garage, the homeowners will cover the garage
let's follow
with the
this,
tree,
yeah.
but then the car.
ABC 1, 2, 3. We'll follow the law.
This is why you need an agent to figure all this out.
There you go. One
So you
that's
don't
going to
have
talk
to
with
do
you
it.
and explain it all.
Yeah.
Jeez, I hope we know somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here we
I know
are.
a lady. We can.
yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Here's another one that's very interesting. I get this question a lot. People will be towing a camper, a boat, or whatever.
Sure.
And they're like, oh my gosh, what if it comes loose, or what if I'm turning and it damages? I got to make sure I have full coverage on that. Well, that's fine. The full coverage is going to cover what's called physical damage. Physical damage would be comp and collision. So that's basically think of any time the boat or the camper is damaged.
Sure.
But if it causes damage while it's being towed, that's a liability.
Oh. Okay.
Liability is now covered by the vehicle that's towing it.
Oh. Okay.
So if you're towing a boat and for some reason the boat comes loose and
Sure.
Damages someone's property or other vehicle or whatever, the liability on your auto policy is going to cover the damage that boat does. So that's another reason why you want to make sure you have enough coverage.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing these extra things, you've got to have the coverage.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to have the coverage.
That one I did know because we bought a camper and I had to go
Oh,
through
yes.
that. And I was like, well, do I have to get it covered before we move it? She's like, oh, if it's being towed, it'll be covered on the auto insurance. But we did want to insure it in case anything happened to it, like, electrical fire or something like that. And I remember it was more expensive if it had an awning.
Oh.
That was one of the questions. She was like, does it have an awning? I'm like, it does. Is that good or bad? She's like, well, if the wind can catch it and it can cause more damage. So
Okay.
Boy.
Well, now I have to be honest. That's something I didn't know because the carriers I represent have never asked if it has an awning.
Interesting.
So, but here's another interesting tidbit about campers. So the liability for the camper is covered by the vehicle that's storing it. Once you park it on a camping pad, you know where I'm going with this. Now, the liability is by your homeowner's policy. Because
see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because we have it insured through our auto, I think.
Well, it isn't written on an auto policy, but it's usually written for physical damage.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
But the liability, because now it's not being towed by your auto, so now the liability, because I've had people call and say, I'm going down to Florida, I'm going to be parking my camper on a, campsite.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the liability.
The change of dynamic, the change of positioning, or what's going on with it.
Again, why it's good to have an agent and talk these things through, because who would really think all that
I would
through,
never have thought of that. Not one bit.
Well, I only know a little bit because we went through it because we got a camper. So.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, because my parents go down to Florida and camp, and so we were sitting around the campfire, and someone started talking about, make sure you have an umbrella policy. And I'm like, and I'm like, I should stop because I love talking about insurance, and they really don't care.
Everyone's like, okay.
We were just talking about that with being on the beach. Now we're at campsites. There you go. There you go. Talking about insurance anywhere.
So here's a really, really good question I get all the time.
Okay.
Does it cost more to insure a red car?
Interesting.
I have heard that is true.
Interesting.
It's not true.
Oh, okay.
The color of the car has nothing to do with the premium. Some of the things that do determine the premium is the year, make, and model of the vehicle. Sometimes newer models are actually less expensive to insure than an older model because newer models have more safety features.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. It also has to do with, like how difficult is it going to be to get replacement parts for that vehicle?
Oh, sure.
So,
so maybe foreign cars that are, not as serviceable here might have a...
Interesting. Somebody's sitting with a visor somewhere trying to figure all this stuff out, going, oh, this is this and this is this.
Well, they're locked in a room, and they're actuarials, and they crunch numbers, and
that's all they're doing is just
and
figuring
they look
that
at
stuff out.
statistics.
All the algorithms. And,
Yes. Yeah, so year, make, and model. The driver, so who's driving? If a young male is driving, it's going to be more expensive than a young female.
Yeah, we just got through that with my son.
My son's almost 15, so yeah. My daughter's doesn't seem to make much difference, but my son, I know it'll go up.
Location has a lot to do with it. So, for instance, if you live in Milwaukee, you're going to pay higher rates for insurance than if you live Franklin or Waukesha. So the closer you are to Milwaukee, the higher your rates are going to be.
Interesting.
Well, there's more traffic, more cars, more chances.
More action, I guess, in general, just quote unquote. Sure.
Age, marital status, and gender. So you could have a young gentleman, two young gentlemen, one married, one not married, same age, same neighborhood, and the married one's most likely, depending on driving
rate.
history, going to have a better rate.
Right.
And then, of course, driving history. Those are what affects the premium, not the color of your car.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of times lately now, too, they want the full VIN number for your vehicle. So I would assume that VIN number will break down a lot of things of the vehicle.
It does. The VIN actually tells the quoting system what kind of safety features are on there.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So you definitely want to have that correct VIN, because then you maybe can get a lower rate because you got the full newer safety things.
Well, sure. I get
Yeah.
people calling all the time and saying, can you give me a rough quote? And they give me the year, make, and model.
Right.
I can give them a quote, but then I
Right.
say, this is just a
Plus
shot.
or minus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is just a shot in the dark. You know,
Right.
once you give me the VIN, it could be higher or lower. Most
Oh,
likely
sure.
lower, but sometimes higher.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting. Very cool.
yeah.
Well, those are, wow, I don't know if I knew any of those things.
Well, here's two more that are
Okay.
very interesting, because this has actually happened to customers. So you go to a restaurant or any place and you let a valet driver park your car.
Sure.
Now the valet driver wrecks your car. He hits someone's car with your car.
Oh, no.
So now there's damage to your car and to someone else's car.
Right.
Well, who do you think takes care of that?
Right.
It's your policy, because you gave him permission to drive your car.
Oh,
So
sure.
in Wisconsin, anyone is covered that drives your car as long as they have your permission. Not the restaurant, even though they're an employee of the restaurant.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then one more quick one. If you're backing out of a parking spot
Okay.
and you hit someone, you are almost always automatically at fault for
yep.
backing out.
Because you're moving. Right.
And that's just the way, because I talked to a claims adjuster and they said that's the way the Wisconsin insurance laws are written.
Interesting.
That's crazy though, because it's so hard to see sometimes, and
Right.
then you're like going really slow, and you're hoping whoever can see you is
well,
going to
somebody
stop.
coming across, maybe, you
I have
know, a lot of
people-
different things that can be happening there.
It's actually almost as stressful for me in a parking lot as it is like in high traffic on the
Oh,
highway. 'Cause
you're
I'm
right.
like, there's
Oh, you can
I'm
definitely
like, and
see
I'm
that.
looking for the little kids, and I'm like, and my
Yeah.
kids are talking to me. I'm like, just let me back out.
It would be interesting to see, numbers wise, the percentages of bad action with just backing up.
Well, 'cause
Oh,
you
right.
can't
About it.
see.
Right.
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 Right. I have had a number of clients that have called. I shouldn't say a number. I've had a few that have called and were in an accident and they're backing out.
Right.
And they were like, I know it wasn't my fault. This person saw me, and that's when I found out. It doesn't matter if they saw you.
Right.
If you're backing out, you're at fault. So I always joke and tell my
wow.
customers, so make sure you pull through so you can pull out.
There you go. Well, if you don't put yourself into the situation, you're not going to have a situation.
Then I can't put the groceries in the hatch. So.
That's what my husband, yep, that's what they say. Yep.
I'm like,
So-
because there's times when I'll do that on purpose. I will back into a spot and things like that. But yeah, it's crazy sometimes. In some parking lots, they're really narrow, and you've
Yeah.
got two big vehicles next to you, and you literally can't see anything. So you have to inch out so you can even see, and it's
Right.
super
Well,
stressful.
prior planning, I guess. There we go. You know, I like to
Yeah.
park far away, so I'm not
There
in
you
the
go.
action of trouble. You know, if there's a lot of cars over here, I like to park over here.
Depends on how many kids I have with me.
Well, that's fantastic. Fantastic information. Did you have anything else, Becca, that you'd like to
No,
bring
I
up?
think we
Because
covered all of that. It's
This
been
was
really nice
wonderful.
talking to you.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming in and talking with us today. We'd
Yes.
love to have you back and bring us up to date on new things going on.
Sure.
Um,
I'd
that
love
would
to
be
come back.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I think the insurance world is fascinating, but well needed. The information is so well needed.
Yes.
I did just think of another
Oh, okay,
question.
go right ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So with COVID and things like that,
Oh,
are
yeah.
there any like new laws or new coverage that people should be considering with like COVID-19?
As far as auto and homeowners insurance, no, there's a lot of new laws for employers
Okay.
as far as
Okay.
offering, health care and medical, but not for auto and home, which brings me to a point. What type of insurance do I cover? I cover everything except for health care.
Oh,
Okay,
So
so,
I-
you do business and
I
things
do
like
business
that?
insurance, I do auto insurance,
Commercial.
life insurance, I do.
Okay.
I just don't do anything with medical, health care, Medicaid,
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's another big world.
It is, and I like to be the expert in the
Oh, okay.
property. They call it property and casualty, which is home and auto.
Okay.
And I feel like if you're trying to know too much about too many different areas,
go.
you
Right.
can't be the expert in
Right.
any one
Right,
area.
right.
Right, yeah,
So-
and that can be a failing for people. So,
Yeah.
well, it's good that you're doing it like that.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
brings up great information. Thank you again.
Yes,
Carlette.
thank you so
Thanks
much for
coming
having
in
me.
and
This was fun.
I like
Talking
the
with our
fun
guests. And
facts.
Fuerst Insurance, Fuerst Insurance, give them a call. Talk with Carlette. She can give you a lot of information and give you personalized service. So please give her a call and engage with her to help you out with your insurance needs. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again on Rely on Local. We're helping local. engage with us so we can help you with the things that you have going on with your local lives. And if you can, subscribe, tell friends, let everybody know about this channel. We're trying to build this to be a big asset for local, and thanks for joining us today. Thank you very much.